All right, today we're diving into a really powerful short story by Alphonse Daudet called The Last Lesson. It's set during a super intense and pivotal time in French history, the Franco-Prussian War, back in 1870. But before we get into the plot, I want you to just think about something for a second. Imagine you were told that tomorrow, starting tomorrow, you are forbidden from speaking your own language, the language you grew up with, the one you think in. That exact scenario is right at the very heart of this story. So our story kicks off on what seems like a totally normal day. We're seeing everything through the eyes of a young kid named Franz, and he is running late for school in his little French village in the Alsace region, and he is stressed. Not just because he's late, but because his teacher, Monsieur Hamel, is going to be quizzing them on participles, and well, Franz admits he doesn't know the first thing about them. It's a feeling I'm pretty sure we can all relate to, right? You can really see the battle going on in his head here. I mean, on one side, you've got this beautiful, warm day, birds singing. Even the sight of the Prussian soldiers drilling seems way more interesting than school. But he tells us he found the strength to resist and just hurried on. But when Franz finally gets to the school, something is wrong. The place he knows is gone. There's this strange, heavy quiet hanging in the air that's just unnerving. See, he was actually counting on the usual morning chaos, that great bustle, as he calls it, of desk slamming and lessons being chanted out loud, so he could sneak in without anyone noticing. But today? Nope, there's none of that. It's as quiet as a Sunday morning. And the weirdness doesn't end there. First, he sees M. Hamel, his teacher, dressed up in his absolute best clothes, stuff you only wore on special occasions, and maybe even stranger. The back benches, which are almost always empty, are now filled with the village elders, and they're all just sitting there quietly, looking incredibly sad. So it's in this really heavy, confusing atmosphere that M. Hamel finally gets up to speak. And with just a few words, suddenly everything makes sense. He starts with a sentence that just lands with this incredible weight in the silent room, a sentence that is about to change Franz's world completely. And there it is. That's the reason for the quiet, the fancy clothes, the villagers in the back of the room. An order has come down from the new Prussian rulers. French is no longer allowed to be taught in schools. This is it. This is their last lesson. For Franz, this doesn't feel like news. It feels like a physical blow. He actually calls it a thunderclap. You know, this sudden, violent event that just shatters his reality. And in that one shocking moment, Franz's whole perspective on school, on his teacher, on everything, it just starts to shift radically. He is just hit with this wave of regret. Every single day he skipped school, every lesson he ignored so he could go chase birds' eggs or play, it all comes rushing back as this terrible, permanent loss. It's that classic pain, right? Of not realizing what you have until it's about to be taken away. And the change is instant. His grammar books, his history books, the very things that felt like such a huge burden just this morning have suddenly become these precious treasures. He calls them old friends he can't stand to lose. But then M. Hamel explains that this isn't just on Franz. It's a failure they all share. He points to the parents for caring more about work than school, and he even blames himself for sending the kids on errands or just taking a day off when he wanted to go fishing. Everyone, he says, took their language for granted.
But M. Hamel doesn't just stick with regret. Instead, he shifts and gives this really passionate, almost defiant speech about the incredible power of their language.
This right here is probably the most famous line in the entire story. He tells them that their language is so much more than just words. It's their identity. It's their path back to freedom. Holding on to your language is like holding the key that can unlock your own prison. So what he's really teaching them here is that their language is a lifeline. It defines who they are, it's the glue that holds their community together, and it's a powerful, quiet way to resist the people who have conquered them. The rest of the lesson just unfolds with this new, almost heartbreaking intensity. Because now, for the very first time, everyone in that room gets what's at stake. And the silence in the room changes. It's not an empty silence anymore. It's a silence filled with focus. The only thing you can hear is the scratching of pens on paper.
every single person is just desperately trying to soak in every last drop of this heritage that's being ripped away from them.
And while all this is happening, Franz hears pigeons cooing on the roof, and he has this beautiful, profound thought. He wonders about the limits of this new power. Can they really change everything? Can they force the birds to sing in German too? It just perfectly captures how absurd it is to try and erase a whole culture.
And then the end comes. It's swift, it's punctual, the church bells strikes noon. At the exact same moment, they hear the trumpets of the Prussian soldiers outside, the soundtrack of their new reality. M. Hummel stands up, he's pale, he tries to speak, but he's just too choked with emotion. The words won't come out. Since he can't speak, he turns to the blackboard. He picks up a piece of chalk, and with every bit of strength he has left, he writes 2 words as big as he possibly can. Vive la France. Long live France. It's his final, silent, powerful act of defiance. And with that, he just motions with his hand. School's over. He leaves them not just with a final grammar lesson, but with a lesson that will last a lifetime. And he leaves us with a question that really sticks with you long after you finish the story. When is a language more than just words?